What is up, my ducks and drakes? Welcome to the Karate Lake. Today, we are going to be reading The Garage by princelogical on fanfiction.net. I think this is the first Wattpad Read Aloud that I'm doing on fanfiction.net. Maybe I've done it like once before, but if I've done it before, it's been, like over a year since the last one, considering how much I use this, which is just barely at all compared to Tumblr, Wattpad, and AO3. But this is by princelogical. You should check out the fanfic and the author using the links in the description below if you'd like to give them support or even follow along with the story. Thesis. Logic can be replaced. And if you enjoy this, please subscribe. On with the story. It was late on a Sunday evening when Logan got a chance to sit down and relax with a book. Rain pelted against the windows of Thomas's apartment. Logan felt light to think that everyone was asleep and exhausted after the long day of hard, satisfying work. However, he knew Virgil was probably brooding, worried about everyone's reactions to their latest video. Matter of fact, he'd only left his room for a moment to make sure Thomas had posted in the first place. Roman was likely going over all the places he might have underperformed by his own standards. Patton and Thomas would be the only ones truly sleeping. Roman corrected himself with a soft sigh. He shut his book and gently laid it on the cushions. He crept quietly off the couch, and then made his way into the kitchen of the mindscape. The light was on, but dim. The table sat unoccupied. 2 chairs pushed out. Several plates were still laid out. Crumbs from cookies scattered across the table. Logan stacked the plates, set them in the sink, pushed in the chairs, and flicked out the light. He made his way down the halls to check in on Virgil, the anxious side, who would be the easiest to coax into going to sleep. Roman would be far harder, for he seemed to be in a direct opposition for whatever Logan suggested. The shadows of the night were immediately a little uncanny as Logan made his way down the halls. Logan approaching being the only one out of his room at night, most often because he could finally get some peace. No one to bother him, no foolish and needless arguing or stress, just Logan and his thoughts. He stepped beside Virgil's door to reach for the knob, only to halt his motion upon hearing a soft hiss in the blackness. Logan lowered his hand and turned around to see a new door, made out of metal, unlike any of the other rooms, which were made out of wood. A hiss sounded once again, and Logan stepped over so that he was standing right in front of a peculiar door. He reached over and twisted the knob, but the hissing didn't sound again. Logan pushed open the door and was met with complete darkness. He stepped into the room and fumbled along the walls for a light switch, which he found within a few seconds. Upon flicking it on, the room was bathed in light. Logan stepped away from the doorway and let the heavy door click shut behind him. The room was laid out like a garage. It was a big and square and massive metal door at the other end of the room that lifted up, a latch keeping it against the ground. The room filled with hundreds of boxes and one desk in the middle of the room, an old leather chair that pushed into the desk, and several books and pens sat neatly on the surface. A laptop was plugged into the docking station in the middle. It was something straight out of Logan's dreams. How have I never seen this room? Logan whispered quietly to himself. He made his way over to the desk and flicked open one of the notebooks. The first page consisted of one typed word. Virgil. Logan froze, still grasping the cover with his thumb and index finger. He flipped to the next page. Once again, the words were typed and read. There is nothing but inconsistency and irrationality when it comes to fear and anxiety. Logan flipped to the next page. It read, Thesis. Anxiety Sanders is unnecessary for the basic functions of Thomas Sanders. Logan slid the notebook off the pile and flicked to the next one. Patton. There is nothing but inconsistency and irrationality when it comes to love and morality. Thesis. Morality Sanders is unnecessary for the basic functions of Thomas Sanders. Logan slipped it away to the next notebook. Roman. There's nothing but inconsistency and irrationality when it comes to creativity and romance. Thesis. Creativity Sanders is necessary for the basic functions of Thomas Sanders. There's only one notebook left. It was blue and looked like the most worn down of them all. Logan carefully flipped it open. Logan. Logic is the embodiment of consistency and rationality. Thesis. Logic Sanders can be replaced. Logan froze. Suddenly the room seemed far more sinister. The light hum of the laptop and the table seemed to glow louder, and the bookshelves no longer looked inviting. They looked like a great big looming monsters. It wasn't comforting in the slightest to be in a room anymore. Logan replied the stack of books and adjusted them the way he exactly found them. He made his way over to the door and twisted the knob. He was met with resistance. The door had been locked. "Rise and shine, kiddo," Virgil sat up grumpily and rubbed his eyes as Patton walked around his room cheerfully. Patton pulled aside the curtains and let in the dim light from outside. Apparently, it had rained because it was dull and gray out, the sun barely peeking through the clouds outside. "I've got pancakes sizzling in the pan downstairs, and you've been locked away all weekend, so I expect you to come down this morning." Virgil grumbled sleepily. He rolled over, grabbing the covers as he went. Patton snatched the covers from his hands and pulled them off the bed. He began to fold them neatly and set them aside as Virgil rolled out of bed, grabbing his hoodie. "Good job, kiddo," Patton said. "I'll be downstairs, okay?" Virgil grunted in response and made his way to the bathroom where he, quote-unquote, brushed his teeth. A.K. ran water through his brush for a good minute, then set it in his mouth for another, and then shuffled his hoodie on his body, then sank down to the kitchen. Roman was blasting the Mulan soundtrack as he wrote frantically in a thick notebook, shoveling periodic bites of pancakes in his mouth as he did so. Patton was busily pouring batter into a pan, little bits of flour dusting the tips of his hair. Virgil made his way to the table and sat down with a huff. "What's got you all grumpy?" Roman asked, still focused on whatever he was writing. "I'm not grumpy," Virgil snapped. "I'm just tired." "Hi, just tired. I'm Dad," Patton said, sitting out a smooth white plate. Virgil rolled his eyes, but cracked a smile. "Where's Logan?" "He's been in his room, probably still polishing up the plans for Thomas this week," Patton explained. "Oh, so Specs could stay in his room, but I can't?" "Logan is being productive, whereas you were being Brody," Roman cut in. "What are you doing?" "Writing." "Writing what?" Roman huffed. "None of your business." "Whatever," Virgil said, raising his hands in surrender. Patton walked over with 2 fluffy pancakes at the end of the turner. He placed them carefully on Virgil's plate and walked over to begin making his own. Virgil poured the syrup over the stack of pancakes and then said, "Isn't it a bit odd for Logan just to skip breakfast, though? He's always the one drilling into our heads that we need at least 3 full meals a day." "You know Logan, how he gets when he's working," Roman said. "Doesn't make it okay," Virgil grumbled as he shoved a bite into his mouth. Breakfast continued on nearly silently, someone only once every so often asking to pass the syrup or help gather the dishes. Afterward, Virgil left the kitchen and made his way down to Logan's room. He didn't care what the others were saying. It just wasn't like Logan to lock himself away entirely. Logan had even said before that he felt more productive to work when in the living room than shut away in his room. Virgil knocked on the door to Logan's room. "Logan, can I come in?" He was met with silence. Curious, Virgil pushed open the door and peeked inside. Upon doing so, he frowned and walked the rest of the way into the room. Logan's bed was still made from the day before, the covers neatly tucked in every corner. Everything remained in place. His drawers were neatly shut, his desk chair was pushed in, 3 sharpened pencils sitting on top of a finished productivity plan. His laptop was shut and still switched off. The room was tidy, but Virgil could tell no one had been in it since the night before. Logan would fold his pajamas and place them at the end of his bed each night. The pajamas were not in their usual spot. Logan always set out a pair of clothes, hung them outside his closet for the next day. His clothes were still there. The bathroom door was shut and the lights were off. Virgil felt uneasy in his stomach. Not of any of it felt like Logan at all. Virgil walked out of the room, closing the door behind him, and headed back down to the kitchen where Patton was whistling as he washed the dishes. Roman was nowhere in sight. Logan isn't in his room, Virgil said. Paddin paused and frowned, then carefully said, Are you certain? Positive. He hasn't been in there since last night. Paddin switched the water faucet off and dried his hands on a towel, a worried frown pressed into his brow. That's not good. No, Virgil agreed. Gather up the others. Family meeting. Soon enough, Thomas, Paddin, Roman, and Virgil were all in the living room, thanks to Virgil and Paddin going through the gathering them up. Do you feel weird in any way? Virgil asked with a frown. In any way at all? No, Thomas said with a shrug. I feel fine. What's going on? The three gave quick glances at each other until Roman spoke up. Logan is missing, and you're not acting any differently? Logan's... Oh, no wonder it's just you three, Thomas said. That's beside the point. We need to know what possibly could have happened to Logan, Virgil said. So, any ideas? I saw him last night, Paddin said, after we posted the video. I went up to my room, and that was the last I saw of him, Roman said. I saw him after we posted it, and then we all split up, Virgil said. Me too, Thomas agreed. And no one saw him this morning? Virgil shook his head. Everything in the room was in place. His pajamas are missing and his clothes are still there. He's somewhere, just not here. The question is where, Roman said. Maybe we should split up, Thomas said. Look around the Mind Palace to see where you could have gone. Valiant idea, Thomas, Logan said, drawing his sword. Virgil rolled his eyes. Yeah, but where should we look? I can look in the garage, Paddin said, then instantly sopped his hand over his mouth as if he hadn't meant to say that. Virgil frowned, turning to Paddin, who looked eager to snatch the words right back and then stuff them down his throat. What? Virgil asked, voice demanding an explanation. The garage, Thomas asked cautiously. Like the apartment garage? No, the one in the mindscape, Paddin explained quietly. You know... No, Roman said, confusion evident and mirroring Virgil's own. No, we don't. Paddin looked sheepishly at everyone, who was giving him looks from frustrated to perplexed. Virgil crossed his arms and raised an eyebrow. You might want to explain, Dad. Paddin swallowed. We have a garage? Surprise? Everyone groaned. Logan was not the type to panic. However, after yanking, pulling, and adamantly, even punching the door, it would not budge. He was officially trapped inside the room. He turned to look at the end of the room, an idea popping into his mind. There was a chance that large door could be an exit. Logan crept over to the end of the room where the big door was, looming tall with its thick metal latch. He reached and carefully pulled the latch upward. It let out a loud groan and slammed against the metal surface of the door with a clang. The door would begin to slowly rise, and dark mist began to seep through slowly growing gap. Logan grabbed the door and began to wrench it downward, but it wouldn't budge. It kept going upward, perhaps a bit slower due to Logan's efforts. The room was beginning to fill with a black fog. It was so thick and smothering that the lights were beginning to dim until they were completely coated. Logan could no longer see anything around him besides the thick black smoke. He began to wheeze, feeling dizzy and exhausted. It was growing hard to think logically with his mind so muddled by the desire to breathe. But he ducked to the ground and laid on his belly. The air was a little thinner, but by no means did it prove a sustainable relief. Logan crawled carefully to stay as close to the ground as possible as he made his way across the room again. He couldn't see anything. His head was heavy and dizzy. For a terrifying moment, Logan realized he was drifting off, face prints against the cool concrete. Opening his eyes burned, but managed and continued crawling. His muscles were quivering. They were begging him to lay down, to give up. With a final grunt, Logan relaxed his limbs and laid on the ground, his body shuddering with exhaustion and dropping adrenaline. Giving up isn't logical, Logan. This isn't logical. You could die. Hypothesis? If the gas is poisonous, you will die within a time frame. Estimated time frame? Minutes, seconds, hours. Get up, Logan. Be logical. Be logical. Be logical. Logan moved his right arm to try to push himself back up again, but his arm flopped uselessly beside his buzzing ribs. His muscles still felt like trembling spoonfuls of jelly. He needed to get up. Thomas couldn't function without him. Thesis. Logan Sanders can be replaced. With one last shudder, Logan's eyes slid shut, body still jerking and shaking. From a logical standpoint, which is the better idea? Roman asked, shoving forward 2 folders. Logan flicked the first one open with a sigh. Dragon witches, again. And he asked the 13-year-old Roman, peered at Logan anxiously. Yeah, or killer shark snakes. Neither make any logical sense. So, they're not supposed to, Roman said. Which is better? They're both nonsensical and ludicrous. Roman sucked his bottom lip through his teeth. You hate them. That is not what I said. You hate them, Roman repeated. Stop being foolish. I feel no such way. They're logical, however, not bad. I prefer the Dragon Witch one. Roman's eyes lit up. I'll put into Thomas right away. Wait, what? We need to get started. Logan rolled his eyes. We have to edit it first. Oh, I don't like editing, though. Well, why don't I edit it, then? Would you really? Roman asked. Yes. Roman grinned. Thank you, Logan, you're the best. Logan groaned as he sat up, gently placing his fingertips against his temple. His head was throbbing, entire body was sore as if he had run a marathon. He took deep breaths, coughing when they seemed to rattle his entire chest. He put a hand there, carefully massaging at it, feeling hollow and unexplainable ache. The infamous Logan Sanders wakes. Thank God it's you here. Now one of the other insufferable emotional facets. Logan blinked, startling back as he saw a tall man who looked like Thomas, but different. He had at least 3 inches on Thomas and more than 5 on Logan. His under-eye bags were a deep purple. The eyes themselves looked amused, but deeply troubled at the same time. His hair was not purple like Thomas's, but brown and dingy, messed up and thrown carelessly to the side, overgrown by Logan's standards. You can speak, can't you? I can speak, Logan said, surprised at the scratchiness of his throat. He cleared his throat and tried again. Who are you? The man raised an eyebrow. Pat never told you. Well, I'm Apathy. Pleased to make your acquaintance, Logan. Forgive me for not being thrilled. Apathy. Logan frowned. Thomas has apathy? Apathy rolled his eyes. Yes, you're catching on, aren't you? What's your name, then? Apathy scowled. I'm not worthy of a name, now am I? Logan stood up, ignoring the horrible ache growing in his body. I assumed you had one like the rest of us do. I apologize. I'll accept it. Apathy smiled, revealing perfect teeth. I figured you could help me. What are you wanting me to assist you with? Logan asked. His hands twitched, desperate to rub his chest again, but he forced his hands to remain at his side. He had no idea what apathy was, or if he were villainous. It was most unwise to show weakness in front of a potential enemy. You and I were quite reasonable. I cannot come to that conclusion as I do not know you, Logan said plainly. Clever, clever, Apathy said with a snort. But you are reasonable, right? I am. Cool, now. And the others. Not so much? Logan frowned. To say not so much is an understatement. I often wonder if reason is even in their capacity. Apathy laughed again, as if he and Logan were sharing an inside joke. I suppose so. I can't help but consider. They often make Thomas act unreasonably, don't they? Must make your job pretty tough. One would say that perhaps, Logan agreed. See this garage, Logan? Apathy asked. It's not a bad place, is it? No, Logan said. Is it your home? At first it was. Patton made it for me. Patton made it for you? Logan asked. Mm-hmm. Logan considered something. You said at first. Is it no longer where you reside? Apathy shook his head. Patton locked the damn door. He locked me in here, and when I tried to escape, he locked me in there. Apathy pointed to the large door where the gas had come through. Logan shuddered. Apathy gave him an understanding look. I don't blame Patton. He was frightened. But he had no right to repress an essential part of Thomas. I kept Thomas from feeling too much and acting irrationally. You took over my place. I apologize. You never knew. Apathy said with a light hum. Exactly. I don't blame you, sweetheart. The pet name gave a cold chill down Logan's spine, and he couldn't explain why. But I want out of here. That stupid door is meant to keep me in. I can't leave. But I bet you can. I gave Logan a desperate, hungry look. I just want to explain to Thomas. I want to reason with Patton. You want me to open the door for you? Logan said. I do. Apathy gave a little nod and smiled. Logan looked over at him and noticed, strapped to his side, was a sword near identical to Roman's. It glowed a faint hue of red, and suddenly Logan felt sick to his stomach. Roman's sword was one of the few actual working weapons in the mindscape. Regular knives, guns, and other weapons they conjured would harm, but they wouldn't kill. Roman's, however, could banish aside to the subconscious, lock them away forever. It made sense for Roman to have it, considering he was the one who pushed Thomas to his hopes and dreams, and was to destroy anything that got in the way. But Roman had never used the sword. Not even anxiety was giving them issues, or Logan shot down his ideas, or Patton seemed to be keeping Thomas stuck. 2 swords had been created, one for Roman, the other for Patton. But Patton has lost his ages ago. Patton just shrugged it off and said, I didn't need it anyway. But there it was, hooked to Empathy's belt. Empathy didn't want to reason with anyone. He was armed and ready to kill. Thank you so much for listening. We're going to stop it right there. If you enjoyed this read-along, then please subscribe and go check out the author. Really, really nice story over here that be vibing. Forgets my outro completely. If you want to check out my shop, it is in the description below. I make beaded things. And if you'd like to check out my social medias, I got Wattpad, Twitter, Instagram, and I got a TikTok where I do pretty cool Thesis cosplay. So I also got a Discord you can talk to other ducks and drakes. Thank you for watching, and much like Logan trying to escape the black smoke, do your best.